Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Korean Help podcast. My name is JD, and I'll be moderating today. Korean Help is a set of initiatives in the New York City Korean community designed to help Korean Americans. So today we have flagged several articles about what's going on culturally and socially with Korean Americans. And you have the first article, right? Would you like to share about that?
Yeah, so the article I found today, it's about this new Netflix spin-off show that will come out. It's a spin-off of the show Big Mouth, and it's like this like really funny animated series about like just being like a middle school aged person with like these characters that are like hormone monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just like other characters like monsters that represent like different areas of like the human condition. So there's like a depression kitty, there was like an anxiety one, I think there was like a fly or something. um
yeah, that's
yeah,
too cool. That's so creative.
yeah, just like really funny, very like crude humor if you're into that. A lot of like famous comedic actors and stuff. Yeah, and in the spin-off, Randall Park, Korean actor, he's gonna be a part of it. And yeah, he's I know him from Fresh Off the Boat. But I'm like seeing here he's also in WandaVision,
Hmm.
which is like
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I
He's
saw
like,
that. I saw him on WandaVision.
oh really?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like moving up the ladder, I guess.
He seems to be getting a lot of love these days.
Yeah.
Like I think people use the term fan favorite or something, but yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's gonna be playing a Logic Rock.
Logical.
So I guess he'll represent like that part of people's emotions or states of being, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think it's called human resources because like those monsters, it's like kind of like their job to like go out and like make people feel like the way they do.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's kind of like a work office place, I guess. Yeah.
Is the original show Big Mouth, is that towards like actually geared towards middle school students, or is it like one of those more like adult oriented things?
I would say it's definitely more for like adults.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see like Koreans in this kind of like comedic scene, and especially in this
Yeah.
interesting concept. It's kind of rare to see that nowadays. Where like when you see Korean actors, you usually see them in like some big movie or some kind of K drama. So yeah, it's like a fresh breath there.
Yeah, yeah. Or Harold, or the like the martial arts and action stuff, right? You do taekwondo, right? So
Oh yeah,
yeah. Not that
Yeah,
there's
it's kind of
anything like,
nice. It's like nice to see like, Korean American actors and people getting like silly roles like this too.
yeah. Harold, are you a fan of Randall Park?
uh, I haven't seen a lot of his works. Like even Fresh Off the Boat, I've like only seen like clips. But I'll definitely check this one out.
Yeah, yeah. So, is he the main star of the show?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Um, but it looks like he will be like a core character.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know a lot of guys were like online were hoping that he and a co-star in that WandaVision would get their own spin-off show in the Marvel universe, right? But we'll see
Mhm.
about that. But Um, okay. Um, Anything more about Big Mouth or Randall Park?
No, just like wanted to bring it up because kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Um, and also along similar lines, I think a lot of people out there have heard about what's going on with Kim's Convenience, right? The television
Hmm.
show on Netflix and on TV in Canada, Kim's Convenience, and actor Simu Liu, who also will be, I guess, the star of an upcoming Marvel superhero movie. And so I guess just in a nutshell to summarize, so the final season of that show, Kim's Convenience, just came out on Netflix, and no one canceled it. Netflix didn't cancel it. The Canadian television station, they didn't cancel the show, but it's the last season because the executive producers, one of whom is Korean, they just decided to move on and not make the show anymore. And Simu Liu, he shared on Facebook some of his thoughts and frustrations. And then a co-star who plays his mother, who plays Amma on the show, Jean Yoon, she also shared on social media her frustrations. And in a nutshell, it boils down to Kim's Convenience being one of the few stories about Korean Americans on TV anywhere, in the world other than in Korea. But they said that in the writers' room, uh, they weren't represented, or they didn't feel adequately represented, and some of the storylines and some of the jokes were actually tone deaf and maybe even racist, and not culturally appropriate. So Jean Yoon, I believe she mentioned that she felt like the other half of the original producing duo, who was Caucasian, that he seemed to, at some point, he seemed to have a bigger role and really run the show, while the Korean American, or the Korean Canadian, I'm sorry, took a lesser role, and which led to those kind of cultural issues, right? And so, I mean, how does
Wait,
that
so
make you guys feel?
so like I didn't really watch Kim's Convenience. Like I maybe watched like a few episodes in the beginning season.
Mhm.
But like JD, I know you watched it more than me. Like, did you watch like all of them?
So our Korean Help member Michelle, she loves it so much, and after hearing about it from her, I did start to watch it, and I watched most of the seasons, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
do you like share the same sentiment, I guess, as like the actors who expressed like their thoughts about the show? Do you like agree
So
with them?
so the thing is, I find myself more and more looking for authentic cultural stories or ethnic stories, not just Korean, but just different ethnicities, because I'm tired of the same old stories, being told over and over again, especially from a white or Caucasian perspective. And so, I found a lot that I liked in Kim's Convenience, but there was often something about it that bothered me too, honestly. And I think it's been a while since I've seen it now, but I do just remember at various points just feeling like, oh, this was off or that was off, and and not to pick on Fresh Off the Boat, because we were talking about Randall Park, but especially because I know that Ali Wong, who I really really like. I'm a huge fan of Ali Wong because I know she was a writer on that show too. But there too, sometimes there was just something about the stories that didn't feel authentically Asian. It didn't feel authentically Asian American or Korean American to me. You know?
Yeah, and like I saw that the article it said like there were no Asian writers or Korean writers. Oh, no Korean writers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the creator who did the play originally, he's Korean American, but he seems to have taken a back seat. I don't know if we can know as outsiders, completely accurately what the story is, who did what, right? but he seems to have taken a lesser role, and the Caucasian writers and producers seem to have taken a larger role. So yeah. So, I'll read a quote from Jin Yoon. Again, she's Amma, right? She plays the mom character. And she says, as an Asian Canadian woman, a Korean Canadian woman with more experience and knowledge of the world than my characters, the lack of Asian female, especially Korean writers in the writer's room of Kim's Convenience, made my life very difficult. And she puts that very difficult in all caps. And the experience of working on the show, painful. So that sounds pretty serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like especially if the actor is like thinking about it in his perspective of, oh, I want to or like let this be like a stepping stone for the Korean community representation and like of our culture, and then
Mhm.
suddenly like midway through um the season or like near the end there's a sudden change that they don't like and they still have to act through it or like um show a side that they don't want to show or that's inaccurate.
Mm,
It's like kind of very stressful for them,
mhm,
especially if it's like their passion.
mhm. Yeah. So, like two other shows and movies or entertainment vehicles that come to mind related to this. So, like Black Panther, obviously it's not authentic because it's a comic book universe, but I think a lot of people, so many people around the world, found something authentic about it, and they just really felt so passionate about it, right? Which is why it did so well, and so many people saw it. And the other one is going back to Aquafina. Aquafina is Nora from Queens, and on that show, her show, I don't know. Again, maybe it's the part of me that's looking for different stories, but a wider variety of stories. But there's just something about that show that I really love. It's just the voice of it, the feel of it is different. Have you guys seen that show?
You talked about Nora.
Yeah, Aquafina's Nora from Queens.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out. Yeah, I should check it out. It looks interesting.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, like
think.
I'm like thinking, and it's like I can't. There's like no like Asian sitcoms, I guess, except for like Fresh Off the Boat.
mm,
But yeah, there's like, or they're not that good, right? Except for what you're saying about Nora.
um, well, I think people can feel differently about the quality of that show. But what I like about it is just, like I said, you see stuff there that you'll never see anywhere else, and just this unique feel. And a lot of that I think is Aquafina herself, just her unique perspective on life and things. But one example is, so her grandma is a huge character on the show, and so her grandma and her Chinese friends went to, I think, Atlantic City, and then they had this face off with a bunch of Korean women, Korean elderly women, and they were fighting over like an electrical outlet or something. But then they're talking about K-dramas and all that, and how even the Chinese women love the K-dramas. But it's just one of the funniest things I ever saw. And when else are you ever gonna see, uh, um, elderly Chinese women face off against elderly Korean women? It's just yeah.
That's actually like pretty realistic or
Mhm.
relatable, I guess. Like the Atlantic City part too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They love to get on those buses and then go to gamble. Yeah. Harold,
Wait,
have
so
you
you think?
seen? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, never mind, you can go.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you thought like the unique elements that you like liked about these shows. Like, do you think they come they're like the product of like um the people who like grew up in these cultures and that are directing these shows?
I think so. Aquafina is listed as an executive producer on the show, and the other executive producer also seems to be Asian American, Chinese American. And I do think it's her vehicle, right? And she, so much of her creativity and her perspective, I think makes it into the show. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's where, Kim's Convenience runs into problems, right? Or I think, at least for me, remembering back now, like, yeah, I mean, you have like amma and appa, right? Amma means, for those who don't know, amma means mom in Korean, and appa means dad in Korean. And they're supposed to be immigrant Korean Canadians, but sometimes the words they say, they're words that immigrant Koreans would just not say, right? And I understand they have to keep it entertaining. They have to tell jokes, but when it gets like too out of bounds, right? There's just too uncharacteristic, too much like actual immigrant Koreans would not say or would think to say. It just, I guess that's what kind of like rubbed me the wrong way a lot of times.
Like I just thought of like it would be cool if like I feel like African Americans in this country, like they kind of have like their own like genre of like
Mhm.
media, of like TV and movies, I feel like. And like I
Yeah,
feel like
yes.
Asian Americans kind of, I don't know, like we don't really have that, like a
Mhm,
like a set like channel or
mhm.
like a genre.
Yes, good
Um
point.
yeah, and I feel like we could kind of use that. Not just like K dramas because that's like just like entirely Korean, but like
Mhm.
just stuff for Asian Americans, I guess, because like
Yes.
the experience is like so different.
Hmm. No, that's a very interesting thought. Yeah. Like they have BET, right? We need
Yeah,
AET
I
or
was just thinking
something.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, that would be cool.
last thing I'll say is I'm sort of rewatching the show The Wire. Have you guys ever heard of that show?
Yeah, I know about The Wire. Like everyone tells me to watch it. I
Yeah.
can't get into
Yeah.
it.
So I mentioned that because of again the authenticity. So the showrunner there, the executive producer there, he was a journalist and he would actually ride around with the police in Baltimore, and so he knows that whole world of Baltimore, whether it's the politics or the gangs and the streets. And so and then, their whole thing, kind of like Mad Men, is all about authenticity. No fancy cinematography, but you better believe that they're getting the details right and the language right, right? If they have like characters who are in gangs, then the language they use is always going to be accurate, and because they're going to make sure of that. And so what we find culturally is that it resonates with all different kinds of segments of people. It resonates with these like white progressives who think it's the coolest thing, but it also resonates with like younger, like Black and African American people who can identify with what's going on in the streets of Baltimore and stuff like that, and just and then the politicians and like teachers, and it just, the authenticity of it resonates with the different groups of people who potentially watch it. And so Kim's Convenience, I think that's where they stray, right? The authenticity issue. But yeah, yeah. But anyways, so Harold, you also have an article, right? Would you like to share that?
Yeah, so since the election is coming up soon, I thought I'd pick an article that kind of relates to that, especially to the Asian American community.
Mhm.
So as many people may know, Yang is the second Asian American man to compete for the Democratic mayoral nomination in New York City. So as as the second Asian American man, there's like a lot of kind of like talking and like rumors and like kind of support for him to like represent the Asian American community. But this article kind of discusses into like why it's kind of divided by talking about opinions of certain like random people. So on the pro side, there's support for um his com- candidacy as mayor because of his character. They like his pragmatic and compassionate side, and his attitude to like solving problems, as he's like kind of very ambitious. As one person noted that he even tried to run for president, so they
Yes.
kind of like that, um like him showing that kind of initiative and the kind of motivation to actually take this seriously.
Yes.
Another part that people are starting to like is that he's um he's taking his stance on education seriously. So he's starting to support charter schools, which is very good for a lot of people. But on the other side, people are not supporting that because they feel like he should be supporting public schools. As a person that went to primarily like public schools, kind of like I know there's still like a lot of work that can be done.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
going forward, I think that personally that should be one of his concerns as well. Another con that people have about him is that they think that he might not necessarily like support um the initiatives that the certain like of certain groups, such as the Muslim community. They feel like he's not really concerned about their initiatives concerning like human rights, and like his comments on like the activities going on in the Muslim communities and the controversies. Like his language has not been um very like appreciated by the Muslim community so far.
Yeah.
So in this way, there's like this there's not the overwhelming like support that we would that a lot of Asian Americans first expected, and that it's kind of like wishy-washy on what the outcome will be.
Very interesting. Yeah. Harold, are you supporting him? Would you vote for him?
Um,
If it's too
personally,
personal, if it's too
I'm like
personal,
kind
you don't
of
have to share.
I'm like kind of half and half. Like I haven't really made a decision yet, but like I definitely think um there should be more focus on public schools. And he doesn't really meet that kind of, but I do like his kind of character as like his ambitious side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he's like a kind of like like a sexy candidate. Like he's like new and like I don't know, he has like all these like different ideas like compared to like other people, I think, like with the universal basic income thing. It's like charismatic, I think, and he's like not like a he wasn't like always in like politics. He's like kind of new, I think, right?
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think like my dad really wants him to be mayor just because he's
Oh,
Asian.
interesting.
Um and like just because of that, like he's like, oh, we just need like an Asian mayor and that will like solve
And
everything.
and for the record, your father is an immigrant, Korean American, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it seems like more like left leaning Asian people are not that into him anymore.
Hmm.
There's also like a lot of support because the recent Asian hate crimes, and like people think that he would
Yeah.
better understand and know what to do regarding that, and he would like take it a lot more serious.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
I don't know, like I don't think like him being mayor would like decrease the amount of hate crimes. Like my dad thinks kind of like he thinks like, oh, if we just have an Asian mayor, like it'll just like make a lot of the hate crimes go away. But then like I don't know, we had like a black president and like that didn't really help that much. Like so yeah, like I don't maybe he will take it more seriously, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. With President Obama, I mean, on a lot of levels, that was an amazing thing, and it did so much for Black and African Americans. But also, um, there was a lot of limitations in what that did also, right? And so that's nothing against President Obama, but just it's hard to change people's minds. It's hard to change hundreds of years worth of history, very quickly, right? And so I think somebody mentioned it before, but I don't know how deep this Asian hate runs, right? I mean, was it always there and it's just that they didn't express it? Or is it more because of the COVID and that it might have originated in China? Or, I honestly don't know myself. And so, but if it is, that historical and that deep-seated, having an Asian American mayor for New York City could definitely help, but it could also have limitations too, I think. So, so yeah, Harold, it was interesting how you shared the different perspectives of Muslims and other in education and other segments of New York City. So yeah, okay, so why don't we wrap up today and so again, we the Korean Hub podcast, we're the Korean Hub podcast team, and you can find out about what we do more on koreanhelp.org. We have our Korean Health directory there, as well as many resources for the community. We recently also created a domestic violence page, which has very critical and important resources for domestic violence victims. So please check that out as well. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Goodbye.